My name is Eric, and I work the night shift at Kingpin Bowling Alley. It's an old place, barely staying in business, and no one ever comes in after midnight, or at least, no one living. Last Friday, around 2 a.m., I was cleaning up when the lane screens flickered. A name appeared on lane 6. Graham. There was no one in the building but me. The ball return rumbled, spitting out a single black bowling ball. My breath hitched. Kingpin had a story and urban legend, rarely about a man named Graham who bowled a perfect game just before he vanished without a trace. Some say his body was never found. Others claim he's still here, playing frame after frame in an endless loop. I told myself it was just a glitch. I had two choices: ignore it and leave, or watch. Morbid curiosity won. The ball rolled down the lane, slow and deliberate. No one had thrown it, but it moved anyway. It struck the pins a strike. The machine reset, and the screen updated too. Frame 2. I watched as the game played itself. Frame 3, frame 4. Every shot was perfect, but as the frames progressed, the atmosphere changed. The lights dimmed, the air turned stale. I heard something faint, whispering sound, just behind me. Frame 7. The whispers grew louder. My hands clenched around the mop handle. The lane's wood looked warped, like something beneath it was pressing upward. Frame 9. The screen flickered again, this time displaying a message. Join me. I turned to run, but the floor was sticky like something was holding me in place. The final frame played. The ball rolled, slower this time, like it was dragging something with it. As it hit the pins, a shape emerged from the ball return. A figure. His skin was gray, stretched too tight over his skull. His eyes were empty sockets, his mouth frozen. In an unnatural grin, the name on the screen changed. Welcome, Eric. Frame 1. I bolted. The exit door wouldn't budge. My reflection in the window wasn't mine, it was his. I did the only thing I could. I grabbed a ball and threw it down the lane. My hands shook, but I aimed straight. A strike. The figure stopped. The lights flickered. Then, just as suddenly as it had started, everything was normal again. The lane screen reset. The name was gone. The ball return was empty. I ran home that night and never went back. But last night, outside my apartment, I saw something. A single black bowling ball, and it was rolling toward my door. My name is Eric, and I work the night shift at Kingpin Bowling Alley. It's an old place, barely staying in business, and no one ever comes in after midnight, or at least, no one living. Last Friday, around 2 a.m., I was cleaning up when the lane screens flickered. A name appeared on lane 6. Graham. There was no one in the building but me. The ball return rumbled, spitting out a single black bowling ball. My breath hitched. Kingpin had a story, an urban legend, really about a man named Graham who bowled a perfect game just before he vanished without a trace. Some say his body was never found. Others claim he's still here, playing frame after frame in an endless loop. I told myself it was just a glitch. I had two choices: ignore it and leave, or watch. Morbid curiosity won. The ball rolled down the lane, slow and deliberate. No one had thrown it, but it moved anyway. It struck the pins a strike. The machine reset, and the screen updated too. Frame 2. I watched as the game played itself. Frame 3, frame 4. Every shot was perfect, but as the frames progressed, the atmosphere changed. The lights dimmed, the air turned stale. I heard something faint, a whispering sound, just behind me. Frame 7. The whispers grew louder. My hands clenched around the mop handle. The lane's wood looked warped, like something beneath it was pressing upward. Frame 9. The screen flickered again, this time displaying a message: join me. I turned to run, but the floor was sticky like something was holding me in place. The final frame played. The ball rolled, slower this time, like it was dragging something with it. As it hit the pins, a shape emerged from the ball return. A figure. His skin was gray, stretched too tight over his skull. His eyes were empty sockets, his mouth frozen in an unnatural grin. The name on the screen changed. Welcome, Eric. Frame 1. I bolted. The exit door wouldn't budge. My reflection in the window wasn't mine, it was his. I did the only thing I could. I grabbed a ball and threw it down the lane. My hands shook, but I aimed straight. A strike. The figure stopped. The lights flickered. Then, just as suddenly as it had started, everything was normal again. The lane screen reset. The name was gone. The ball return was empty. I ran home that night and never went back. But last night, outside my apartment, I saw something. A single black bowling ball, and it was rolling toward my door. My name is Jared, and I used to love bowling. That changed the night I played at Midnight Lanes. It was an old, rundown alley on the outskirts of town, one of those places you assume went out of business years ago. Yet, somehow, the neon sign still flickered to life after dark. My friends bailed on our plans, but I decided to check it out alone. Just one game, I told myself. The place was empty. No front desk attendant, no other bowlers, just the steady hum of unseen machinery. The air smelled stale, and every footstep echoed like I was walking through an abandoned cathedral. Then, the automated lane screen lit up, displaying, "Welcome, Jared, Frame 1. I hadn't entered my name. The ball return rumbled, and a single bowling ball rolled out. It was old, its color dulled with age, but something about it felt, wrong. The weight was uneven, and when I touched it, my skin prickled like I was holding something alive. I rolled it anyway, a perfect strike. But the pins didn't reset. Instead, they stood back upon their own. No machine, no mechanical arm. They just moved. Frame 2. A new ball rolled out, this one heavier. I picked it up, and my fingers stuck for a second, like the ball was gripping me back. I bowled another strike. Then I heard it. A faint scratching sound, like nails on wood. It came from the gutters. Frame 3. The sound grew louder. I looked down the lane, and in the shadows beyond the pins, something shifted, a shape low to the ground, crawling. Frame 4, Frame 5, Frame 6. I couldn't stop playing. My hands trembled as I sent ball after ball down the lane. The scratching turned to whispers. The thing in the shadows got closer. I could see its outline now, long fingers, empty eyes. It was waiting. Frame 9. The lane floor was slick now, wet and dark. I didn't want to know what with. My reflection in the ball was wrung. It smiled when I didn't. Frame 10. The final ball was ice cold. My fingers went numb the moment I touched it. The whispering voices were no longer distant. They were right behind me. I threw the ball and squeezed my eyes shut. A perfect game. The whispers stopped. The air felt normal again. I turned, my heart hammering. The alley was empty. The lights were dim. The neon sign outside buzzed faintly, flickering out. I ran. When I got home, I swore to never set foot in that place again. But when I emptied my pockets, my stomach turned. A crumpled scorecard. Congratulations, Jared. See you next time. My name is Elliot, and I work the night shift at Kingpin Lanes. It's a dead-end job, but I never minded until the night I discovered the hidden lane. Kingpin Lanes had been around for decades, a relic from the 60s that never updated its decor. The air reeked of stale beer, and the neon signs buzzed like dying fireflies. Most nights were quiet. Just a few late-night bowlers and the occasional drunk stumbling in from the bar next door. That night was different. The power flickered around. 2 a.m., just as I was about to close up. I went to the breaker room in the back. a place one rarely entered. That's when I saw it in a narrow corridor, behind a rusted metal door I'd never noticed before. It shouldn't have been there. Curiosity got the best of me, and I stepped inside. The corridor was long, lined with cracked tiles, and led to a single bowling lane covered in thick dust. An old scoreboard flickered to life above me, displaying a name, Elliot, frame 1. My breath caught in my throat. I hadn't entered my name. I turned to leave, but the door had vanished. My heart pounded as a ball rolled out of the return chute on its own, stopping at my feet. It was old, its once bright color faded, the number 13 etched into its surface. The pins reset at the end of the lane with a deafening crash. Something wanted me to play? With shaking hands, I picked up the ball and rolled it down the lane. It hit the pins with a sound like shattering glass. The scoreboard updated. Strike. Then the lights dimmed. The shadows in the corners thickened, twisting into shapes that moved. The air grew heavy, and a low whisper crawled into my ears, overlapping. Voices chanting something I couldn't understand. Frame 2. A second ball rolled out. This time, I hesitated. My reflection in the polished wood of the lane looked wrong. It wasn't following my movements. It was watching me. I didn't want to play anymore, but when I stepped back, my feet wouldn't move. My body was frozen in place. The voices grew louder. The only thing I could do was bold out frame 3, frame 4, frame 5. With every roll, the lane changed. The pins became skeletal hands, reaching. The return chute gurgled, spitting out balls covered in something thick and dark. The figures in the shadows pressed closer, whispering my name. Frame 10. The final ball was heavier than before. It burned against my palms. My reflection grinned at me as I let it go. The pins exploded, and the world around me shattered. I woke up outside, the alley's neon sign buzzing above me. My shift had ended. My hands ached, my body sore. It could have been a dream, except for one thing. The scorecard in my pocket read, "Perfect game. See you next time." My name is Travis, and I used to love bowling. That was before what happened at Striker's Alley. Striker's Alley was the only bowling alley in my small town. It was old, smelled like stale popcorn, and had a reputation for being cursed. The rumor was that back in the 80s, a man named Raymond Burke went on a rampage after losing a tournament, taking down half the staff before turning the ball return machine on himself. The place shut down for a decade before new owners reopened it, pretending the past didn't exist. I never believed in curses, but I do now. It was a regular Friday night. My friends and I had a routine bowl, a few games, drink some cheap soda, and talk about nothing. That night, the alley was nearly empty. Just us and an old man behind the counter who barely looked up from his newspaper. Everything was normal until my third frame. The lane glitched, the pins reset on their own, before my ball even reached them. Then, the screen above me flickered, showing an old black and white security feed. It was us, but something was wrong in the grainy footage. A figure stood behind me, just a shadow barely visible at the edge of the frame. I turned around. Nothing was there. My friends laughed it off, saying it was just an electrical issue. But when my turn came again, I grabbed my ball and nearly dropped it. It was warm, wet. I looked down. My hands were covered in something dark. Blood. I staggered back, wiping my hands on my jeans. But there was nothing. My ball was clean. My friends saw nothing. "Dude, you okay?" Jason asked. The scoreboard above us flickered again. The names changed. Jason, Melanie, Mark, and me all. Our names vanished. In their place, new names appeared. Burke, Burke, Burke. The old man behind the counter finally looked up. His eyes were wide, his face pale. "You need to leave, now." The lights above us exploded. Shards of glass rained down. The lanes stretched. the floor beneath us turning slick, like an oil spill seeping from the cracks. A voice boomed over the intercom, deep and gurgling, like someone speaking through water. "You took my place. Now I'll take yours." The last thing I saw before everything went black was the reflection in the polished lane, not my own. Raymond Burke was staring back at me, smiling. "My name is Alex, and I used to work the night shift at a rundown bowling alley called Kingpin Lanes. It was an old place, barely holding together, but it had its regulars mostly lonely, insomniacs, and drunks who had nowhere else to go. The pay was garbage, but it was easy work, at least until I met the man in Lane 13. We never assigned Lane 13 to anyone. The owner was superstitious and insisted we skip it when giving out lanes. But one night, around 2 a.m., I heard the unmistakable crash of pins from that lane. I looked up, and there he was, a man in a tattered brown coat, his back turned to me. I hadn't seen him come in. "Sir," I called out. "We're closing soon." He didn't respond. He just picked up a ball and rolled it down the lane. Another perfect strike. The way he moved was eerie stiff, unnatural, like a puppet being controlled by invisible strings. I stepped closer. "Sir, you're not supposed to." He turned. His face was wrong. Pale, too smooth, like it had been stretched over a skull. That was slightly the wrong shape. His eyes were black pits, empty and bottomless. Then he grinned. The lights flickered, and suddenly, the entire alley was empty. No customers, no sound, just me and him. The pins at the end of Lane 13 reset. On their own, I took a step back. "I am going to call the police." The man didn't move, but a bowling ball rolled off the rack and stopped at my feet. My name was etched into it. I hadn't told him my name. The intercom crackled. A voice, distorted and distant, whispered, "Your turn." I ran. I don't remember leaving the alley, but I woke up in my bed, drenched in sweat. I quit the job that morning. Kingpin Lanes burned down a month later. No cause was ever determined. The fire started at Lane 13. My name is Derek, and I never believed in ghosts until I got trapped in the alley. It was supposed to be a normal night. My friends and I had the idea to sneak into Westwood bowling after hours. The place had been abandoned for years, left to rot after a fire gutted most of it. Some said it was haunted. We said it was just a cool place to explore. The back door was easy to pry open. Inside, the lanes were covered in dust, the air thick with the scent of mildew and burnt wood. The electronic scoreboards were shattered, but the lanes themselves remained intact, as if waiting for players to return. "Let's bowl one round," Jake suggested, setting an old ball onto the lane as soon as he let it go. The overhead lights flickered to life, all of them. "Nope, nope." Lisa backed toward the exit. "That's our cue to leave." The ball kept rolling. It should have slowed down, but instead, it picked up speed. It slammed into the pins with a force that shook the floor. The sound echoed unnaturally, stretching into a deep, guttural groan. Then, the ball rolled back. It stopped right at my feet. My name was carved into it. The air turned ice cold. I heard footsteps behind me, dozens of them, shuffling, circling. I turned, but there was nothing. There, Jake screamed. He was gone. Just ... gone. 1 second he was beside me. The next, only his shoes remained. Still positioned like he was standing there. The bowling pins at the end of the lane reset on their own. Lisa bolted for the door, but it had vanished. The wall was seamless, as if no entrance had ever existed. The intercom crackled. "Next player, Derek." A pair of hands cold, bony clamped down on my shoulders. I don't remember much after that. Only flashes, Lisa crying, the lanes stretching into darkness, a crowd of shadowy figures watching us, a voice whispering, over and over, "Your turn." I woke up outside, alone. The building was sealed shut, as if we had never entered. Jake was never found. My name is Lucas, and I used to love bowling. It was my go-to stress reliever, a hobby that got me through rough weeks. That changed after the tournament at Ridgewood Lanes. The tournament was supposed to be fun, just a local event with some cash prizes. But there was something off about the place that night. The air smelled stale, like old beer, and something metallic. The neon signs above the lanes flickered, buzzing like angry insects. And the people, well, that was the weirdest part. Half of them weren't really watching the games. They sat unnaturally still, their heads slightly tilted, eyes locked on the lanes without blinking. I tried not to pay attention. I had a game to focus on. By the time I reached the final round, I was on fire. Strike after strike. I was up against some guy named Greg, a quiet, lanky man who never spoke. His skin had a weird, grayish tint, and when he bowled, he barely moved. Yet the ball rolled with unnatural precision. It came down to the final frame. I needed a strike to win. I stepped up, took a deep breath, and rolled the ball. The second it left my hand, I knew something was wrong. The alley seemed to stretch, the pins looking impossibly far away. The ball moved slower than it should have, as if the air had thickened. Then, just before it reached the pins, it stopped. Dead still. The entire alley went silent. Greg let out a breathy laugh, the first sound he had made all night. He stepped forward, picked up his own ball, and rolled. The moment his ball touched mine, both vanished. The pins fell over on their own. The screen above flashed. Winner, Greg. The lights flickered wildly, and I suddenly felt lightheaded. I turned to the audience, but they were all staring directly at me now. Their mouths hung open, but no sound came out. Their eyes glassy empty reflected the neon glow. I backed away, my stomach churning. Then I saw the new name on the tournament board. Lucas, returning player. I don't remember leaving Ridgewood Lanes. 1 second I was there, the next, I was outside, gasping for air. The tournament never showed up on any local listings again. Ridgewood Lanes shut down a week later. But I know it's still there, and I know Greg is waiting for me to come back for my rematch. My name is Daniel, and I never believed in ghosts. So I started working the night shift at Westwood Lanes. It was an old bowling alley, built sometime in the 70s, with faded carpets and a cigarette smoke smell that never really went away. The job was easy. Clean up after closing, reset the lanes, and make sure no drunk stragglers passed out in the bathroom. Simple, until last night. It started with the pins. I was sweeping near lane 7 when I heard the unmistakable clatter of pins falling. The problem, no one was bowling. The lane had reset itself. I walked over, half expecting to see some mechanical glitch, but the pins were still wobbling as if they'd just been struck. I glanced at the control panel. It read, Player 1, strikey. A chill ran down my spine. I deleted the game from the system and stepped back. The panel flickered, then the words reappeared. Player 1, your turn. I laughed nervously. All right, very funny. Who's messing with me? Silence. The lanes stretched out in front of me, dark and empty. The neon glow above the pins flickered slightly, casting strange shadows across the alley. Then a single ball rolled out from the return system. I took a step back. Nope, I'm not doing this. I turned to leave, but the automatic doors refused to open. I banged against them, my breath coming in short, panicked gasps. A sound behind me whispering. I spun around. The ball on lane 7 was moving. It rolled slowly at first, then picked up speed, barreling toward the pins with unnatural force. It slammed into them, sending them flying. The screen above flashed. Perfect game. The lights above the lane flickered wildly, and then, for the first time, I saw it. A figure, standing just past the pins. Tall, lanky, its limbs too long, its face obscured by darkness, and it was watching me. I stumbled back, my heart pounding against my ribs. The bowling balls in the return started rolling on their own, thudding against the machine. The whispers grew louder, overlapping, suffocating. Then, a voice low guttural spoke directly into my ear. Your turn. The doors behind me unlocked with a click. I didn't hesitate. I ran. I never went back for my paycheck. Never answered the owner's calls. I don't care if I never step foot in another bowling alley again, because I know something is still waiting at Westwood Lanes, and it's looking for a new player. My name is Ethan, and I have always loved the eerie silence of a bowling alley after midnight. There's something about the dim neon lights, the rhythmic sound of pins crashing, and the occasional hum of the pin-setting machines that gives me a strange sense of comfort. But after what happened last Friday, I don't think I'll ever step foot in one again. It started as a regular night out with my friends, 3 rounds of bowling, greasy alley food, and a few too many beers. The place was packed earlier, but by 1 a.m., it was just us and the night manager, an old guy named Rick who barely spoke. As the last of the other patrons left, Rick locked the doors and went to his office, leaving the lanes eerily quiet. Last game, I said, lining up for my turn. The screen flickered slightly as my name appeared on the scoreboard, but instead of Ethan, it read leave. I frowned. Guys, who's messing with the scoreboard? Not me, Jason muttered, stuffing his face with nachos. Maybe. It's a glitch, Sarah suggested. But I noticed she was shifting uncomfortably. I deleted the text and re-entered my name, Ethan. Perfect. I grabbed my ball and took my stance. As I swung my arm back, the lights above the pins flickered violently, and in the split second before I released the ball, I swore I saw a figure standing at the end of the lane. The ball rolled straight into the gutter. The figure was gone. Did you guys see that? I turned back, but my friends were staring at me blankly. See what? Jason asked. I thought, never mind. I sat down, heart pounding. The game continued, but something felt wrong. Every time I looked away, I caught glimpses of shadows moving between the lanes. I heard faint whispers, like a conversation just out of reach. And then, my turn came again. I stood up hesitantly. My name on the screen had changed. Run. My blood ran cold. All right, screw this. I'm done. Ethan, it's just a malfunction, Sarah reasoned. But even she didn't sound convinced. Before I could argue, a loud crash echoed from the far end of the alley. The last lane's pinsetter had gone haywire, slamming down repeatedly, sending shards of pins flying. The air filled with the sickening smell of burnt rubber and metal. Then, the whispers turned into screams. The bowling balls started rolling on their own, picking up speed as they hurled toward us. The neon lights above burst, showering us in sparks. Jason yelped as a ball narrowly missed his foot. Sarah grabbed my arm, her nails digging into my skin. We need to get out of here, she screamed. I turned towards Rick's office, but the door was wide open, swinging slightly. I ran over, heart hammering. But the room was empty except for a single old photograph on the desk. It was a picture of a bowling team from the 1960s. 5 men stood proudly holding their trophies, but one of them had no face, just a dark, hollow void where his features should have been. A small caption beneath the photo read, "In memory of those lost in the 1967 fire." Then, the air turned ice cold. A breathy sea unnatural brushed against my ear. Your turn. The lights went out, and the screaming began again.